Argentina is the 8th largest country in the world, stretching from tropical jungles all the way to Antarctica. But here's the surprising part. Almost all the major cities are in the northern half. Buenos Aires, with over 15 million people, makes up about 1/3 of the country and is one of the largest cities in the Americas. Other big cities like Córdoba, Rosario, and Mendoza are also up north. Meanwhile, the southern third of the country, it's almost empty. We're talking about Patagonia, the 6th largest desert in the world, a region bigger than Texas and New Mexico combined. Yet, barely 5% of Argentines actually live there. Not a single city has even 500,000 people. The largest city, Neuquén, has just 377,000 residents. Even Ushuaia, the iconic southernmost city in the world, has fewer people than a mid-sized American suburb. But here's the real kicker. Patagonia isn't some useless wasteland. This place is sitting on massive oil and gas reserves, and it's got world-renowned scenery that draws tourists from all over the world. So the question is, why does one of the most resource-rich regions on the planet look like a geographic ghost town? Well, the answer is actually pretty complex and involves everything from ancient geology to political decisions made over a century ago. Today, on Across the Globe, we're uncovering exactly why Argentina has no major city in the south. Now, you probably already know Patagonia is harsh, but the reality is even more extreme. While northern Argentina has fertile plains and river systems that are great for cities, Patagonia is a huge semi-arid plateau. Imagine endless windswept steppes, with the Andes Mountains blocking moisture from the Pacific, creating a massive rain shadow. The result? It's so dry that sheep ranchers need 2.5 acres just to graze a single sheep. This isn't farmland. It's land built for survival. Outside of a few river valleys, there simply isn't enough water or fertile soil to feed a major city. Buenos Aires thrives because it sits on the fertile pampas with access to the Parana River system. Patagonia? Its rivers are shallow, short, and mostly useless for navigation or trade. But here's where it gets interesting. Geography explains the how, but not the why, because even harsh lands can develop major cities if there's a good enough reason. Think Las Vegas in the desert or Denver in the mountains. Patagonia has oil, gas, and a bunch of natural resources. So why didn't these lead to an urban boom? The answer goes beyond just rough terrain. There's a historical reason most people don't know about. While Buenos Aires was growing as a busy colonial port, Patagonia was mostly ignored. The Spanish weren't interested in this windswept region. There was no gold, no silver, and no large indigenous empires to conquer. They claimed it on paper to keep the British and French away, but developing it, that wasn't worth the effort to them. For nearly 300 years, Patagonia was home to its indigenous peoples, like the Mapuche, Tehuelche, and others who knew how to survive in the tough environment. They defended their land well into the 1800s, even after Argentina gained its independence. But here's the twist. Even though Argentina claimed the region for so long, it didn't actually gain control over Patagonia until the conquest of the desert military campaigns in the 1870s and 1880s. During this time, General Julio Roca led a military campaign that defeated indigenous resistance and opened the region for settlement. But by then, it was already too late. Think about the timing. While Patagonia was still indigenous territory, the rest of Argentina had already built its cities. Buenos Aires was booming. Córdoba, Rosario, Mendoza, all established and growing. When millions of European immigrants flooded into Argentina in the late 1800s, they headed straight for these developed areas, mostly drawn to the fertile lands and economic opportunities in the central part of the country, not the remote southern frontier. Even those brave enough to try Patagonia often didn't stay. For instance, the Welsh colonists who arrived in 1865 faced such brutal conditions that some were later relocated to Canada and South Africa in search of better opportunities. An Argentine architect once made a brilliant comparison. Americans went west, but Argentines stayed away from the south. Around 1900, Patagonia had virtually nothing, just scattered outposts, a tiny Welsh colony, and endless empty plains. Even after settlement began, Patagonia developed as what economists call an extractive colony. Giant sheep ranches, oil fields, mining camps, industries that create small company towns, not major cities. The wealth flowed north to Buenos Aires, while Patagonia remained a resource supplier. The numbers tell the story. Today, 1/3 of Argentina's population lives in Greater Buenos Aires alone, while all of Patagonia holds just 5% of the country's people. That's not geography talking, that's 400 years of history leaving the South behind. But here's the thing. Harsh climate, tough terrain, and late colonization all played their part. But really, all they did was set the stage. The real reason Patagonia has no major cities cuts to the core of how Argentina developed as a nation: extreme centralization. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Argentina didn't just develop around Buenos Aires. It developed only around Buenos Aires. During the country's golden age in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Argentina became one of the world's wealthiest nations by shipping beef, wheat, and wool to Europe. But here's the catch. Virtually all of that wealth flowed through one port: Buenos Aires. Think of it like a massive economic vacuum cleaner. Railways were built like spokes on a wheel, all pointing toward the capital. Manufacturing clustered there. Banking, politics, culture, everything gravitated to Buenos Aires. By 1914, the capital had transformed into the glamorous Paris of South America, while Patagonia's biggest town barely scraped together a few thousand residents. This created a vicious cycle that continues today. Smart, ambitious people from Patagonia had to move north for university or good jobs, draining the South of talent. Why invest in infrastructure where nobody lives? But nobody lives there because there's no infrastructure. It's the ultimate chicken and egg problem. But here's what makes it even more frustrating. Patagonia isn't actually poor. As we mentioned, it's rich in oil, natural gas, minerals, and has huge tourism potential. But instead of using these resources to build cities in the south, Argentina treated Patagonia like an internal colony. This included policies designed to integrate the region, often through the displacement and control of indigenous populations, along with heavy centralization from Buenos Aires. The resources were extracted and shipped north to fuel Buenos Aires' growth. Oil towns like Comodoro Rivadavia grew to around 200,000 people. Respectable, but nowhere near metropolis status. As one bitter Patagonian observer put it, the government was great at exploiting rich deposits of oil, gas, and coal for the benefit of Buenos Aires. The South's wealth literally powered the lights in the capital while leaving Patagonia in the dark. And then there was the crazy plan that almost worked. By the 1980s, the imbalance was so obvious that Argentina tried something bold, moving the entire capital 600 miles south to Patagonia. President Raúl Alfonsín announced plans to relocate the government to the small town of Viedma, population 30,000, and create a new federal district that would grow to 300,000 people in just 5 years. Families even started moving there, hoping for a Patagonian boom. The plan had serious political support. Leaders were fed up with Buenos Aires controlling everything. For a second, it seemed like Patagonia might finally get its major city. But then, reality hit. Economic chaos, hyperinflation, and political instability put an end to the project by the early 1990s. Today, Viedma is still a quiet town of about 64,000 people. While it's an improvement, it's nothing compared to Buenos Aires, which has over 15 million people. So the bottom line here is that Argentina became the perfect example of what geographers call a primate city country. One giant capital sucking up everything while the rest of the nation fades. Patagonia never pushed people to settle because of its harsh environment, while Buenos Aires always pulled them away with irresistible opportunities. The result? Today, 1/3 of Argentina lives in Greater Buenos Aires. Patagonia became a land of extraction and tourism, not cities. And that failed capital relocation proves just how hard it is to reverse 150 years of extreme centralization, even with the best intentions. So, where does this leave Argentina now? The imbalance that started centuries ago isn't just ancient history. It's shaping the country's future in ways that might surprise you. While Buenos Aires continues to dominate finance, innovation, and culture, Patagonia remains a region of endless horizons, interrupted only by a few mid-sized towns. This divide creates both challenges and unexpected opportunities that define modern Argentina. The first major thing to note here is that there is a political price of empty land. Patagonia's tiny population means it gets outvoted on everything that matters. The region has little political influence, even though it produces the gas, oil, and hydroelectric power that keep Argentina functioning. In a colonial-style relationship that fuels resentment, Patagonians watch as their resources move north while their own infrastructure falls apart. At the same time, national programs often ignore the unique challenges of frontier life, focusing instead on urban issues in the Buenos Aires area. In a democracy, where you live often determines how much your voice is heard. But here's a major twist. Many Patagonians wouldn't have it any other way. These proud people have turned their isolation into identity, with many calling their homeland accursed Patagonia, land of macho men and free souls. And there's a silver lining for the people of Patagonia. Without a sprawling megacity, the region has preserved something valuable: untamed wilderness that attracts adventurers from all over the world. In 2022, Argentine Patagonia alone saw nearly 4 million overnight visitors, while Chile's Torres del Paine drew 252,000 each year. The area's mystery runs so deep that outdoor gear company Patagonia took its name, with founder Ivan Chouinard seeing it as a remote and almost mythical place. The very emptiness that kept cities away has now helped create a booming industry worth billions. It's a perfect example that sometimes what seems like a setback can turn into success. But could Patagonia ever get its major city? Well, the dreams certainly persist. Antarctic research hubs, renewable energy capitals, tech centers, and scenic Bariloche. Climate change might even make the cooler south more attractive as the north gets hotter, but reality is stubborn. Even the recent oil boom in Neuquén has only pushed the city to 400,000 people. Impressive growth, but still nowhere near megacity status. Argentina seems to have accepted Patagonia's role, the beautiful, resource-rich frontier that powers the nation from far away. Sometimes the wisest choice a place can make is to stay exactly as it is. So there you have it, Argentina's tale of two worlds: the bustling north with its mega metropolis of Buenos Aires, and the wild south where penguins outnumber people and silence stretches for hundreds of miles. It's one of the most dramatic geographic imbalances on Earth, but it's also what makes Argentina unforgettable. Why doesn't Argentina have a major city in the south? Because everything conspired against it. Brutal climate, poor soils, late colonization, and 400 years of Buenos Aires acting like a massive gravitational force, pulling everything toward itself. Patagonia never stood a chance. But maybe that's exactly how it should be. Creating a Buenos Aires of the South would require moving mountains, literally and figuratively. And in trying to build another megacity, Argentina might destroy the very thing that makes Patagonia special: its emptiness. The lesson here isn't just about Argentina. It's about how geography and history team up to decide where humans build their greatest cities. Sometimes those forces create metropolises like Buenos Aires. Other times they preserve wilderness like Patagonia. Both have value. Both shape a nation's soul. Argentina will always be a country of two extremes: dense streets and silent plains, urban chaos and natural peace. And perhaps that's not a problem to solve, but a gift to treasure. What about 50 insane geography facts about Asia?